Welcome to Married to Movies. Industry insiders John Russell and Tracy Kring live and work happily in cinematrimony. They're sharing behind-the-scenes adventures of writing, producing, and appreciating films.
Good morning, babe.
Good morning, babe. How you doing?
Good.
Lovely.
You got up earlier than me today.
A little bit. A lot of shows came out yesterday.
Gosh, yeah.
A lot of series. And one of the series that it's like Tracy and I go all the way back, and she got me hooked on Sex and the City.
Yeah.
And we used to watch it together. And the reboot of Sex and the City, it's not really a reboot. They call it And Just Like That.
Right.
Okay. But it's basically Sex and the City. And
without some of the characters.
Right.
Samantha.
Yeah, Samantha. Folks, the Kim Cattrall scatting video is something you have to see before you die. For those of you who know what scat is.
Why do they call it scatting if scat means poop?
I don't know, man. That's like a Wikipedia question. You'd have to look that one up.
Okay.
But it was very funny because I saw on Facebook, someone said, yeah, I just watched And Just Like That. And they were critical of it. And they said, I could barely get through 2 episodes. It was so gratuitous. And I thought, did you ever watch Sex and the City?
Wait, what was gratuitous?
Well, we did see a completely naked Cynthia Nixon.
I was shocked. That was shocking.
But I wouldn't call that gratuitous.
I was like, go for it, girl.
That was kind of like the point, wasn't it? I mean, she's like in her 60s, and you know, she's still got it rocking on.
Who was it who was naked? Emma Thompson.
Yes, Emma Thompson was naked in this like Hulu
Let me ask you this.
movie.
Was that person a filmmaker?
Who? The person?
Who on Facebook?
I don't know, man. I have no idea.
That is like the perfect example of how independent filmmakers get treated. Where if you're Emma Thompson as a filmmaker, oh, how brave, how beautiful. She's in her 60s and naked in this film. If you're Cynthia Nixon, gratuitous, gross.
So the difference is in the sort of quality of the actress in the person's mind?
No, it's the perceived quality of, as I'm using the analogy, if you were any good, you would be a more famous filmmaker.
Oh,
But because you're an independent filmmaker, you must be bad.
Oh, interesting.
Nothing good can come from independent film. Although we're always setting trends.
Right. Exactly.
That we have to answer to a higher calling.
So yesterday, along with watching a bunch of shows, we also watched the first 2 episodes of the 2nd season of The Bear.
Have you seen the pictures of the main actor in The Bear compared to Gene Wilder when he was young?
Oh no, I haven't seen those.
They look like
twins?
father and son.
Oh, really? The thing to me that show just absolutely nails is that strange anxiety that somebody feels when they are completely over their head. Mm-hmm. I think that it's really interesting. I feel like Hollywood tries to sell confident characters.
Right.
You know, the characters have to be secure in themselves. They have to be secure in their skin. They have to have belief.
Which is Hollywood.
Right.
Which is
bullshit.
Fiction.
Which is scat, folks. Total scat.
Well, God, you know, I think we've talked about even before that.
Shabba-dabba-doo-bah.
As, you know, so much of that is just like becomes delusion.
Right.
Becomes like...
Well, we've talked about magical thinking. You know, this idea, this name it, claim it. This, if I speak it, it happens type thing.
Well, that is biblical.
Well, yeah. But the thing about The Bear that I think is absolutely wonderful is the way that everybody on the show always feels like they are just completely adrift, that they're not going to be able to do what they have set out to do. But because they all have united together in that same feeling, they are able to accomplish amazing things. They don't need somebody to believe. They just feed off of each other's disbelief, really.
Well, that's a film set.
Yeah.
You get enough people together, specialized in a certain thing, and you're filling in the gaps. Mm-hmm. You know, enough to get a thing done.
And great writers are able to take characters that were kind of minor characters and then make them more important and larger and more just central to the story. And I feel like the character of
they have a life.
The character of the sister now has become really central to the bear. I feel like the bear is sort of expanding out beyond the bear now, sort of the way Ted Lasso did, where we left kind of Ted Lasso's world and Ted Lasso sort of started to infect everybody else's world.
Okay.
Because that's the way life happens. One person's...
Your circle of influence.
Right, your circle of influence. One person's enthusiasm and their dream starts to... And there was just such a beautiful, beautiful scene where this woman, she started out as a cook, but now that the bear is going to turn into a fine dining establishment...
Well, she doesn't cook that way.
No.
Like the way that she cooked was the way that the original restaurant cooked.
Right.
Which was like,
the original beef, which was, it's a sandwich shop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the chef who's come in, the female chef who's come in, I don't remember.
I don't remember the
That's
names,
the thing about the bear.
Yeah.
You don't know any of the
Nobody's names. Yeah.
The new chef who comes in, she kind of looks down her nose at this, woman who's been cooking there for years. But
at first,
I think she's come to realize this person actually has a really good palate. She has really good, technique. She's just self-taught, old school.
Right. Everything kind of has to be at the same level.
Well, and that's, I think, where you get into trouble working with people. It's not that I'm looking to hire like the best people, right?
Right.
The most expensive best person. That would be great.
Right.
But I want to hire somebody better than me.
Okay.
I just want to hire somebody better than me so that I have an opportunity to learn.
I would say that if you have money, you hire people, you get someone who's better than you. If you don't have money, you give somebody an opportunity that will better them.
Yes, I agree.
So, in other words, if you are in a position and you don't have the money to pay the best person, probably not a great idea to try to go out and get the best person. I mean, I'm not saying that once again, it happens, but, outliers are LIARs. They really are, folks. I would rather give someone a chance that they've never gotten before. Sort of like happens in The Bear here, where she is invited to become her sous, which is a great place of honor to a fine dining chef. And the lady absolutely she has a beautiful moment where she just kind of melts in front of the camera and it's like the greatest day of her life. That something like that could happen to her.
Right. To be called up.
Right.
I think you can go after people who are better than you, who are, expensive, and just negotiate, because it's also a transaction where they understand that you also want to learn.
Right. Well, what are they going to be getting out of it? And I think, and there are many, many things you can get out of it. Of course, the easiest thing to get out of something is money. But a really great thing for a really great...
they don't care about that.
Well, they care about being in good work. Yeah. Something that is...
I have a story.
Please, could tell me the story.
Well, on a movie that we made, I was DP.
Mm-hmm.
And it was determined that I should have a camera operator. And normally I just operate the camera myself.
Right.
So I had a camera op, I had a first AC, a second AC, and, my department was filled out. So I was a DP, I had a camera operator, and they were, on big things. They were not union, but working on big shows.
Right.
In television, and had done some things just in film. I was just like, yeah, my dream.
Can I give him a hint?
No.
Okay.
The whole thing about the show is to kind of remain anonymous. I don't want people listening to the show and going, they're talking about me, in a good way or a bad way.
Okay. Sounds good.
So this camera op, we were shooting for, I don't know, 3 or 4 days. And I had been building all these crazy rigs. I had been, the time that we thought we were going to get to film kind of got slashed. So we had to reorganize the way that the film was shot.
Right.
And I was taking dolly track, basically pipes, and every Apple box on the grip truck and making these monster tracks and stuff. And I was just like, hey, I'm going to indie guerrilla filmmake this thing up, right? And get the most I possibly can out of every shot. And about day 4 or 5, he comes up to me and he's just like, I'm having so much fun. He's like, you are brilliant. I would follow you anywhere.
Aw.
So that was really cool.
Because he didn't get a chance to do stuff like that.
No, he never got to do anything fun. He was just like sitting on a tripod, shooting the shot he was told,
Right.
you know, and I was engaging him and letting, you know, bringing him into my process.
Everybody wants to be creative. Everybody. I listened to, I think it was Maya Hawke, and she was talking about the new Wes Anderson movie, Asteroid City. And she said that being on that set was just absolutely incredible because on a movie set, there's this thing where basically you're on call, where at all, you know, the day that you show up, you may or may not end up being in the movie. And people usually are waiting in their trailer, they're on their phone, they're doing business, whatever.
Catching up on emails.
Right. Well, Maya said, well, Wes's movie was different because everyone was on call all the time.
Oh, wow.
Everybody was on set every single day.
That's costly.
It's costly, but she said what it did was it made an amazing. Everybody had dinner together every night.
Everybody gets to hang out.
Yes. Everybody would go to set and they would be watching, and Tom Hanks would be watching Jason Schwartzman do his scene with Scarlett Johansson and, you know, complimenting him. And then, you know, and there was just this energy. So basically, the biggest actors in the entire world are in this movie.
Right.
And they're just basically talking about it like it was awesome that we had to work more, that we had to be more engaged, that we had to be more connected to the film. And it was a incredibly unique experience because of that.
Well, I mean, that's definitely my favorite way to make a movie is we all live together. We all work together. Even if you're not in a scene, you may need a day off to go hang out, but...
I have a story. Do you remember one of our early films? It was called A Has-Been. And we we had a place that we were using as a location, and we were also using it as our where we were living.
Yeah, our living quarters. It was cool because it was like a camp, and it had like tiny houses on it, like tiny little trailer houses. Very adorable little cabins, and everybody showed up. And you know, usually most cabins you would have 2 people in a cabin.
Yeah, it was like summer camp. It was like camping out.
Oh yeah, I remember. There was this one lady. We were asking her, "Hey, are you comfortable with remotely? Because we'll get you another cabin, but you know we're trying to split them. But we have an actor who's coming, and you would bunk with the actor." And she was like, "I don't know. Let me think about it." And when the actor got there, they had dated in high school.
Yes.
And of course, they were like, "Yes, we will love to share a cabin."
Yeah, well, you know.
And we may have reignited them for a moment.
Yeah, for a minute. Yeah.
That was the film we made in California, too. And I was also doing the catering on that. Mm-hmm. And it was, I remember, so difficult. I remember talking to my mom about what am I going to feed these people? Because like all of them
very specific.
All of them had like, there was one person who basically didn't eat anything that didn't just fall on the ground.
Yeah,
naturally.
It was like dietary restrictions you would leave.
Yeah, like berries, you know, and I'm like, how am I going to feed like basically 15, 20 people?
I remember there was one guy, he had a small part in it, and he worked at Pixar.
He did.
He worked at Pixar, and he was telling us stories.
He was a camera operator at Pixar.
And he was like, yeah, you know, when we, and I remember this. Oh my God, I will never forget this. He said, okay, I'm gonna show you, something on my phone here. This is the next big Pixar movie coming out. And this is the camera work that I was doing to sort of show the animators kind of.
He did pre-animation camera operation.
Right, to show kind of like what the animation would look like.
Right.
And it was WALL-E.
Oh, wow. Well, I remember he showed up to set and we knew he was from Pixar, and we had bought tents like at Walmart.
Yes.
And we had run out of like their generico Walmart blue tent or something. And we had to buy a Cars tent for a child.
Yes.
And it had like cars on it, you know? And he got there and I was just like, oh shit. He's from Pixar and we're using a Cars tent. And I was just like, we're never going to see that Cars tent on camera. It's in the background, out of focus.
I remember he told me, you wouldn't believe how much money they have made off of Cars. And
Cars
he said,
licensing.
And as an example, he said they had made $1 billion
on diapers.
On diapers.
On diapers.
Cars diapers, folks.
Oh, God. I think there's still Cars diapers.
Oh, I'm sure there are.
He was like, the licensing outperforms the movie.
Oh, by
billions.
Yes, yeah, by a ton. That guy had no reason to be in our movie. I mean, none whatsoever, except he thought it would be fun.
And although he was very talented in his, in
his lane,
in his career, he wanted to be an actor.
Right.
And he wasn't going to get the opportunity in his circumstances. He was applying just like every other actor.
Opportunities have financial value. Remember that, folks. Giving someone an opportunity is it's like you're bringing money to the film and you can get people that, you wouldn't believe.
I had a really fun experience with a good friend of ours, and she started filming like little videos and stuff in some abandoned places that she was going. And, kind of like music videos or like abstract, imagery videos. And she was showing some to me one day. She came over. And I was like, you have a really good eye.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, we're making this movie in Florida in, I think it was December. No,
right.
We're making this movie in Florida in December. And, that abstract kind of imagery stuff is very much what this movie is going to be about. And would you consider like coming with us to Florida and being my second camera? And she was like, if you're pulling my leg, if you're joking around, I'm going to cry. Do you mean it? And I'm like, yeah, I mean it. I'm like, do you have anything going? She's like, no. And she was tickled to death.
Right.
And honestly, working on Girl in the Palms, I remember she turned to me. We were in the back of the van, filming out the back of the hatchback of the van. And we were just sitting there waiting, and like exhaust is floating up into our noses and very hot. And she just looks at me and says, I don't know how I'm ever going to be able to go back to normal life. Like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life.
And she is.
And she is.
And she is. And she is. And you don't know what sort of path that you can just inadvertently set somebody on when it comes to, the creative arts.
Thanks to our sponsor, Movie Mode Merch, the graphic t-shirt store to outfit you for your next film set. Be the person wearing the t-shirt everyone asks, hey, where'd you get that shirt? Cast and crew alike love these inside jokes and filmmaking-inspired designs. Check them out on Insta at Movie Mode Merch.
We were doing a movie, and one of our main leads in the film, just imagine a scene that centers around a person, and then that person does not show up, disappears, and everybody is there for that person. You can't write the person out. There's nothing that you can do. And we were looking, basically, we had a casting right there on the spot.
In our extras.
With the extras.
This guy who really had not acted at all.
Yeah. I mean, he was just basically there as an extra. He just fooled around with, playing in movies sometimes.
Yeah, I don't know if he had ever even had a speaking part. I
don't think so. Not at that point.
I don't know. Well, so there were two guys who were the right type of guy, the right age and everything, to play the main character's ex-husband.
Right.
And we even took the lead actor aside and said, hey, we have to have a husband character. I think we're going to, if you'll sit with us, we're all going to audition these two guys.
So actors and crew are standing around.
Yeah, and we're just like, hey guys,
wait a second.
We need 15 to 20 minutes. If everybody just takes a break, enjoy yourself. There's some refreshments. And we pulled them aside. We were at a church as a set. We pulled them aside into a little kids room. We were all in kid chairs and asked the two guys, hey, would you come in for an audition? And they were standing right outside the door. One walks in, does the part. The other one walks in, does the part. They leave. We turn all three of us together and say, all right, who do you choose? And we all chose the same person.
Right.
To play the ex-husband. And he was... I mean, had he walked in in a normal audition, I probably would have cast him as the husband. And he's gone on to really big things and producing.
Yeah, he's made his own movies. He's been on major television shows. I mean, it really set him on a path for his career for the rest of his life. And
he was he was a really good guy.
Just a really good guy. And he was perfect for that role.
Yeah.
He was.
My God, the year that we made that film, it was a cicada year.
Oh, God.
Talk about the worst year you could be making a film in summer in Tennessee in the summer heat. And it's cicadas.
Yeah, and even and sometimes we had to shoot outside at night, and so
God.
The cicadas.
I remember just because our lights would attract bugs anyway outside at night,
right.
And I just remember hearing cicadas dive bombing all the lights,
Attack,
and they would just shake on their stands whenever they would get, because those things are big.
Cicadas are dinosaur
They're
monster insects.
Some of them are as long as your pinky finger.
Yeah.
Forget about when they're mating. They're twice as heavy. They would just be I remember them hitting my back.
There was another casting that we did. It was actually our first film ever. You remember that with the film got delayed.
Oh, our first feature ever. Yeah, basically, it required some nudity, and it was not meant to be sexy nudity.
No.
We always had discussed, the woman's body that we wanted would really need to be not something that people were lusting after so much as, we didn't want giant boobs.
No, it was the movie is really about this woman's exploitation by her family, by her church, by, this other character, by the town. And,
we had found the perfect female, she was attractive enough to be someone would want to kidnap, unfortunately. But she was not something that people would just sit there and not pay attention to the movie and look at her topless. She had a insecurity and a frailty to her that was more like seeing people in work camps.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I mean, she was perfect.
Yeah, she was. And she's an amazing actress.
But she decided she was uncomfortable with the subject matter and uncomfortable with any nudity. And of course, with nudity, we could negotiate that. But with subject matter, not so much. That's a different movie. That means you don't want to film. So we had auditioned several other girls. One girl we auditioned actually became a good friend of ours later on. There had been this one girl, and she had a really thick accent. She was, fit the part. She definitely fit the part, but she was so interested. She had, I think back then we were so dumb, we actually gave everybody the script.
She wanted this
She had read the whole script. She'd been studying the whole script. She was manifesting it for herself, for sure. She was just hell-bent to get that part. And when we let everyone know, there's going to be a delay because our actress has dropped out, she immediately started emailing. And I remember at the time she's very adventurous, and she had broken her arm in a snowboarding accident.
Right.
And she was doing snowboarding tricks and got hurt. And she said, well, right now I have a cast on my arm, but I get it off
in 2 months.
In 2 months or something. So, just keep me in mind for the part. And we got closer, she was emailing.
Yeah, and she just, her enthusiasm really started to it got us excited.
Well, we had been kind of broken because we did have an entire film put together. And then it was Kaputski's.
Right. When the actress kind of, got cold feet.
Our little inner artist child's little artist babies kind of got mortally wounded, and we thought, well, I guess that's the end of our filmmaking career, which was stupid. But this actress, just by her tenacity, kept reminding us, kept asking, kept bringing it.
I've almost got my cast off.
Yeah, and then I remember, well, why don't we at least meet with her? And then, of course, we had lost some of our other characters because of this, so
we had to start putting it all back together again. We
basically had to start from scratch, completely from scratch. We had her over to read with the abductor, and they had filmic chemistry.
Right.
And we were like, okay, well, that's who we're supposed to cast. So,
And basically it came together as a result of kind of her effort. She kept pushing us towards the film.
Without her energy, I don't think we would have ever put that film back together.
No.
And it got a lot of notice in festivals. There's another really providential story about that one. You remember this?
Yes.
We were in the car and we were scouting locations, and we needed kind of like a secluded farm area. We needed several locations. Right. And we were hoping that we could find at least one, which was their house.
Right, exactly. The more locations that you can have in one place,
less moving,
less company moves, where everybody has to pack up and move somewhere else.
We're out in the middle of nowhere outside of our town. It's just rural farmland out there. And we pass like a sign for rent.
For rent.
So we jot down the phone number.
Right.
Keep driving around. So we come home. We've got a little notepad of phone numbers to call and addresses to track down. And you call up this number and the guy answers and you go, hey, I'm calling about the kind of farmhouse.
Yeah, the property that you have for rent. We'd like to maybe, for like a couple of weeks. We'd like to
rent it,
and
work something out.
Yeah, work something out. And the guy goes, sure, come on out. And, we can talk about it.
So he gives you the address and it's like the totally wrong address.
It was not the number I had written down. I don't know how this happened, but I called a random number, a mistaken number.
Right.
And found
and they had what we needed.
Perfect location.
They had like 4 or 5 locations in the same location.
There was the barn, there was the house, there was a trailer, there was the next door.
They had run like a stall at a flea market.
Mm-hmm.
And so as a place to just store all of their vintage stuff, there was a shed.
Yeah, we totally raided that shed.
That we raided
the hell out of that shed.
We outfitted, there was an empty trailer where the floors were falling.
Right.
And we raided that shed and decorated the entire trailer.
Right. And it was, the movie, first of all, it was a stupid movie to try to make your first movie. It was a psychosexual thriller period piece that started in 1967 and it went till like 1980. I mean, I can't think of something more difficult to try to pull off.
And I guess one would question now, did we pull it off?
It was our first movie.
Enough.
Exactly.
Enough.
Yeah.
It was passably pulled off.
It was it was an incredibly valuable learning experience.
I learned on that movie whatever the camera sees is what's important, and I was early in my director of photography, my cinematographer career. I was very early, but I realized I'm not going to set design, I'm not going to put decoration all around this room. I just have to point the camera at something that looks like the era.
Right. I remember there was a ice cream shop in the town, and it was like, a 1967, ice cream shop.
So she got to walk by that.
She walked by it, and we had 2 vintage cars that crossed at the same time that she walked by.
Right. And a couple of extras dressed in the era.
And a couple of extras dressed. But what we didn't see until...
was every anachronistic thing that could possibly happen just inches outside of the frame.
Yes, exactly.
No, and that was a really good lesson to learn. I enjoyed that. I do regret the news coming out I remember, oh God, I had not slept for days and the news was coming out and I was in our makeup trying to make myself look like something other than just a charcoal brigade. I was burned. And I was like, how am I going to get rid of these dark circles? I'm going to look like a freak.
I mean, that's just, that's the real deal. People like that. People like the real stuff.
Well, we were filming in the upstairs of the barn. And one thing that happened up there was you guys got me cracking up so hard. And if I laugh too hard, I will start peeing. and you had to climb up a ladder into the hayloft. It was a hayloft.
It was in the hayloft.
And I was trying to make it over to the ladder to climb down from the hayloft, down into the barn to run to the house that actually had electricity and a bathroom.
Yeah.
And I peed myself.
Yeah, you're not
going
to make it. You're not going to make it.
I just had to hang on to the ladder for dear life and just I peed.
And I remember you were laughing.
I was so
you were
mad.
like, I'm peeing.
I was so mad at you guys too. I'm like, damn you. Then another thing that happened was we actually were filming some of the nude scenes, and the guy who owned the property showed up and you ran down.
Yeah, so we're up in the hayloft and he pulls up at the house and my actors are naked. So I go down the ladder, the pee-stained ladder, and out of the barn and, hey, how you doing? What's going on?
Well, and he was mad because we were using too much electricity. Because we were freezing. And the actors were half dressed and they were freezing.
I didn't know you guys would be here all the time using up all my power. Yeah. He was bucking for more money.
Yeah, and he was getting curious about wanting to walk around and see what was happening. So I remember you were like, well, what if I give you $100 cash? And he said, fine. That he would let us stay there the rest of the time that we had bought. But you came up and you were like, okay, I don't get good vibes from this guy. I feel like probably tomorrow sometime he's going to come here and tell us to get the hell out.
Yes.
So,
and I made a executive decision at that point that we would shoot all night long and finish everything that we were going to be making at that location.
And pack out of the location.
Yes.
And put everything back.
Yes.
Where it had come from.
Yes.
And drive immediately.
Well, there was no way to duplicate that location. There was nothing else that we could do.
Nothing would ever look like it.
Right. Nothing would ever look like that. So I was just like, okay, the only way that we are going to be able to guarantee that we're going to finish this film is if we just pound through about 20 pages tonight.
No, we were all on board, but I don't remember a lot.
It was so cold.
We immediately had to get into cars and drive like an hour and a half or 2 hours to our next location for the next day. And you're right, leaving that location unattended for like a whole day while we were in another town, we probably would have come back and not been able to get in there. He probably would have locked the gate on us.
Right.
But at that point, I hadn't had sleep for like at least, 36 hours. And I was falling asleep in the truck, driving our lead actress to the next town. And I looked over at her and I'm like, I'm really concerned because I keep falling asleep and I don't remember how we got from the last couple exits to here. And she just woke up, laughed, and went back to sleep. And I was like, well, I guess we're not that concerned about it then.
It was worth it to me to go ahead and for us to pay the price and to work all night and to finish up just to make sure that movie got done.
Right. I think the thing that we would know now to do is to delay the next day.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I really don't think we could have because we had like 100 extras coming.
Right.
So, I guess we would have to do what we had to do.
Sometimes you just have to just
maybe I would have
bite the bullet.
I think I would have called in some reinforcements.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing what I know now, that would have helped.
We were young and stupid.
Well, you're stupid until you learn from the experience. That's fine.
And once again, I have something that's coming up this weekend, and I felt like completely unprepared, and I didn't know what was going to happen, and I had some anxiety about it. And you know why I felt unprepared? Because I was unprepared. And once I started to sit down and break it down and write things down, I have no anxiety about it at all now.
I got feedback one time at a premiere that I was too quiet in the Q&A,
Mm-hmm.
And, you're an interesting person. You should have spoke out more. You should have told more stories. You should have been more relatable to the audience.
Right.
So I took that feedback and the whole pregame while I was showering and while I was sitting on the toilet or any moment, I was just talking to myself,
mm-hmm.
talking about questions that the audience could ask and clever ways to answer them or whatever.
Awesome.
I was just pre-gaming the whole time. So when we got up to, I had a great joke worked out for somebody, like if they asked me, how much the movie cost, I was going to kind of like smarmily kind of like respond. That's like, it's like walking up to a woman and asking how far along she is. Those are questions we just don't, that are not appropriate to ask in polite society.
Cute.
And just like, I prepared mentally for that. I did the mental exercises, and
I think that's 100% true. I think that you have to prepare to be spontaneous.
Yeah.
Once you've already kind of played it all out in your head, then you don't have to have note cards in front of you.
It's called material. Everybody's pulling from material. Mm-hmm. Even if they look like they're inventing it right now. They're not. They have material.
Well, what I like to work from is just sort of like just some general bullet points. Just like, this is a question or this is an idea that I want to get across. I know once I am in the room and I know my life and I know my experience enough that to get that question across, I'm going to be able to fill, 5-10 minutes or whatever.
My only advice to you, and this is the situation sometimes you get into when you're teaching or public speaking, be prepared for people to push back.
Sure.
And be prepared to defend. If you can't teach something and defend it, don't say it.
Right.
If you're on the fence, well, that's not exactly how that went down, but it's close enough. Don't do it.
Right.
It has to be something that whenever you get that person who's resistant to change, that thinks they know everything, right, that has been doing this for years,
sure,
that you either can defend your position,
right,
or you can just confidently say, I don't know.
Right. Or that's just been my experience.
That's my experience.
That may
and
not
outside
be
of that, I don't know.
Yeah, that may not be your experience.
Yeah, we've been through a lot. That was our
That sounded very much like PTSD.
No, that was like our first feature film that we made.
Yes.
And we've made 20 at this point.
Right.
So there's tons more ups and downs, experiences, and stories.
We haven't even gotten to the short films. Oh, man.
God, we were talking about the short films this weekend and laughing about it. Oh, God. Craziness.
That's for another day.
And the film career before that.
All right, folks. Well, we will see you. We won't see you, but you'll hear us tomorrow. I'm John Russell Crank.
Are these coming out every 2 weeks?
I don't know.
Listen at your leisure.
That's fine. There's no rules.
Listen to us whenever you want to.
It's all right. Do what you want.
It's hard not to get romantic about movies. Thanks for listening to Married to Movies. Jon and Tracy will meet you for breakfast tomorrow. Thanks to our sponsor, Movie Mode Merch, comfortable graphic tees made by and for awesome filmmakers to wear on set and off. Check them out on Insta at Movie Mode Merch.